All right, we're back again, and as you can see, I've we had a sort of a plan to begin the infill on the fuselage, and then I was remembering that if I'm going to do this lighting, I'm going to have to probably pre-install the battery and the circuit board in here. Just tie the wiring off someplace where it won't interfere with the infill and sanding process. But I'm also going to need to route the lighting for the wingtips through the wings. And I kind of need to know, where everything's going to be, so I know, where I'm going to come out of the fuselage. My thinking here now is just taking the center section. The fuselage is going to mount over the middle of the center section, which is right around here. It doesn't fit yet because I haven't contoured the leading and trailing edges, so it's a little long. And what you don't want to do is start, shaving things just to get it to fit in there. You want that to occur naturally, so with the sanding process rather than making notches. Anyway, it looks like if I have the wiring, the battery, and the circuit board and the switch, that's all on here. There's the circuit board and the switch. There's the white plastic deal right there, the battery. This is the the core of the lighting situation. So my thought again was to have to cut out, once everything is infilled, to cut out the passenger entry door on the back of the fuselage here. On the drawing, it's positioned partially over the bulkhead, and that won't work. I don't want to have to saw through the bulkhead and create all kinds of potential cracking issues. So I'm going to move the door just slightly forward so that it's no longer so it doesn't interfere with the bulkhead, and just make it wide enough for the battery to come out, so that I can switch the battery out and then stuff it back in there. The motherboard can either go on this other deck, or since this is left open in the infill product, I don't ever cover that, I can leave off just this, or half of this infill piece. I'll need the outboard part of it, because if I leave it completely open, well, it's not completely covered by the fuselage. There's this little wedge there, so I have to at least cover that. So I'm thinking the infill piece on this side is probably going to be from this rib to about here, with this area left open. Okay, and then I'll have to feed the wires through. You can see I've drilled out all of the wing ribs at that location, and on the outboard wings too. You can see those are all drilled out so that I can feed the wiring through that. And what I'll probably do here is infill the entire wing except for the top sections here, 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 and here. Everything else infilled, and the bottom infilled. We'll just leave those sections open so that I can get the wiring to come through. What I did on the wing tips, since this is a 3-layered part, the bottom layer is solid. The second layer, I cut in half where the opening, where the hole is for the wiring. Just cut it in half, and then cut another parallel line on that other piece, the other half of the wingtip section, such that there would be a channel. So taking out that 1/8 inch section, and then putting the top piece on and leaving that open down the middle means that we can pass the wire right through this wingtip, and do it in such a way that sanding to a certain depth, I'll have to be careful in sanding this wingtip down. I won't want to be sanding into that channel. If we do, there's always filler and other solutions for that, but we're going to try not to do that. But it's ready to accept the wiring kit, the wingtip wiring. So there's that. And now that I've got the wings, center section, both left and right panels, we've got the ailerons out here ready to go. You can see the ailerons, the way they do this is also a three-part section, but only the wing root end has the third piece on it, and that's just because the wing is thicker here than it is out here. They could have made it three, consistent pieces, three of the same length all the way down, but that would have meant quite a bit more sanding. So at least they took that into account. What else? I did commit an unforced error on the leading edge material. I grabbed the wrong leading edge piece for this left wing, so I had to add a bit of balsa to the top edge, just out to about here. This one was correct. I actually grabbed the right one. So be cautious of that. Double check the dimensions of the each part that you're going to be using, especially if it's going to be strip stock without a part number on it. I should have used this piece, and instead there was a skinnier, probably something that was meant for the tail. So that I've just created a little extra work for myself when it gets to that point. But again, oftentimes with these balsa kits, I don't always build up the tail section per the plan. Sometimes I just cookie cutter them out of the sheet material. And if this created a big enough problem, then that's what I'll do here too. It looks just as good. I can do it in such a way that it looks scale, and we're not. It's just a little extra sanding. All right, so we'll stay tuned for that deal. For now, we're done with this wing layup. So I'm going to set the ailerons aside up here. Get the wing sections up and off the desk, so that I can pull up this plan sheet. I don't need it. I thought what I'd do here is just take a look at the plans on the tail sections, just see what they entail, and determine whether or not I'm going to build them up, or just do the cookie cutter thing that I just talked about. And we got to be careful lifting this off. Don't want to tear the plant. I want to make sure the dihedral they depict here, I think, is supposed to be scale, but I'll double check it. Oftentimes with Guillow, they put a little too much dihedral even when they're calling it scale. Sometimes they'll put both for flying model and for scale. The flying model dihedral is always going to be greater than a scale representation would be, and that's to add some stability in flight for a plastic model, or I'm sorry, for a balsa model. It just has to do with the fact that the airplane is out of scale to the atmosphere and needs a little assistance to fly with some stability, given that the surface area of the flying surfaces are not very large, not as large as a full-scale airplane, certainly. So there's a difference in how much lift and how much lateral control, lateral stability the airframe it can have by itself without the control features. So if you're wondering why there's so much dihedral on a flying model compared to the real-world aircraft, why don't they just use the scale dihedral on the model? It's because it wouldn't be effective in certain conditions for stability in flight. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Your results may vary. So the last two components of the airplane. In this case, they're going to be the two tail surfaces, and they are on two different sheets. So this is what we have for the tail. And again, like I said, I can either trace these onto the silk span and then cut them out using the sheet balsa. Just stack a few, cross-banded so they don't warp. You have 3/30 seconds with the grain running this way and 3/30 seconds with the grain running this way. Probably with a bit of birch ply in the center to give it a little rigidity and to aid in preventing the warpage. But the cross-banding typically prevents warpage. If you were to take a 3/30 second sheet and lay it on with the grain this way and put the top sheet with the grain running the same way, what you end up with is a propensity for that tail to warp with the grain, like to warp this way, not this way. But you don't want the tail. You want to look at the tail of the airplane and see something that looks like a chamois dorsal fin. You want it straight. And to get there, you cross-band two sheets instead of just using one or laying them on with the grain running the same direction. You don't want to just use one piece of thicker balsa, and you don't want to ply it, but with the grain in the same direction. You want to cross grain. Anyway, that's why we do it that way. So I may just do that. Yeah, here it looks like this 1/4 by 3/8. This is the material that I was supposed to use, and that's what I used on the wrong material. I was supposed to use that material here, probably here. No. Well, here, and here. So I've used, this is all I've got left after doing that wing. So we're in trouble with that. I can switch it to this thicker stuff, and I can either slice it down to this size and then use it, or use it and then take care of it in sanding post production. But I think what I'll do instead, I think we'll just do the cookie cutter on the tail. Like I said, it's easier, it's quicker, it looks just as it's just as effective. What am I looking at here? So the elevator is depicted properly. You just cut through this section here to make it loose. But this is weird. They didn't draw the cut here and here. Or I gotta look at the book and double check how this is supposed to be cut. No big deal. Anyway, so I think this is. I'm gonna go ahead and lay these up. Again, just cookie cutter, not in this layup fashion, not with the thing. Yeah. She gets pretty thick. S6, if this is the profile, she's pretty thick at the inboard. Probably get sliced off after we're built. I'm thinking. Meanwhile, I'm still thinking. Might cookie cutter this and build and lay up and build this. Just to get this right. This, because this is our profile here. That can be done with sandpaper, real easy, sanding block. But that's a big taper, and I want to say it's going to be flat across here, and then begin tapering here and here. And I might just need to build that to lay that up. All right. Well, anyway, so now you see where I'm going to be, how I'm going to be going about this. So I'm going to button that up in here, the battery built up inside of the airplane. I don't want to try and, well, you know what, this is all left open. I don't have to stuff that in there at all, do I? No, I don't. Alright, so we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and lay this up and infill it. But I do need to make sure the wires and everything stretch and make it to the ends of the airplane. So the way this works, maybe I'll show you this real quick. It's kind of fun. So we got a lot of lights here. She ships with, what does she come with? I've got 3 white LED, and the way it calls those out is one each for the wingtip strobe, and then there's a red and a green for the wingtip nav light. The third one is probably for the tail. There are 2 red lights, beacon top and beacon bottom, and a landing light. And so there's connectors on this motherboard that have either a flashing setting, which can be dialed up or down on a small rheostat, or steady. The lights can either be steady or flashing. In the case of the navigation strobe lights, we'd want flashing. In the case of the beacon, the red beacon, we want that to flash. I'd love it if it rotated, but it's a flasher, so that's fine. You got to spend a lot of money to get one that does beacon things. But anyway, it'll look the same. And then, so, you know, will I use all of the lights? I don't know. I think because the period DC-3, I don't believe had flashing wingtip strobes. I don't believe they had that feature. But I might, you know, go ahead and include that with the nav lights just because. You know, a retrofitted airplane, DC-3 or not, would probably have flashing wingtip strobe.